Welcome to the Quantum City Initiative, a show about the most important stories, ideas at the intersection of AI, cities, real estate, and the leaders shaping the future of how and where we live and work. Do you save and reinvigorate cities, or are you building new ones?
What is most critical for cities in the future with the sort of AI factory race to work? All right, episode 14, coming at you live, week after Strata. What a week it was. A lot of travel. Chase, you have been traveling all over the country, saying what's up to our customers. Love that. How you doing, man?
Doing all right, man. How are you? Big haircut. Big haircut.
Big haircut. There was a lot of feedback. Somebody came up to me and said, "What happened again?" Just, I thought I was able to mask it by slicking it back, but then I guess the profile view was real bad.
I didn't think it was bad. It was just long.
That's
Bring
what
the
we
flow
need.
back.
It keeps me accountable here,
Yeah.
the viewers, right?
Yep. It's a
Keep my act together.
good public accountability check.
Yeah, it's good. All right, let's dive right in. We got a lot to talk about, a lot on the docket today. What are the nice trends that we have here, which is great because it's sort of a transition from Strata, and the capital markets panel that we had here is that blockchain finally hitting commercial real estate. So there's a report here by Deloitte that 4 trillion of real estate transactions will be tokenized by 2035, up from just 300 billion. What do you make of this? Is this just talking and playing into, I guess, Trump's administration, right? The war on crypto, the war on blockchain being over? Or do you actually think the commercial real estate and the technology market will make strides to put these transactions into tokens or onto the blockchain? Is this real?
Well, I mean, look, Deloitte, PwC, Accenture, McKinsey, BCG, pick your consulting poison. I think number one, I take all reports that are 10-year forecasts with a grain of salt because it's like the accountability on.
I take all reports from accounting and consulting firms with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But okay, I like yours.
Yeah, it's like it'd be a little more meaningful if they forecasted the 3 to 5 year prediction, but 2035, like not a lot of risk in claiming 4 trillion, right? They're basically saying it's going to a little more than 10x, which I think I was more interested in the 300 billion number. That's still a drop in the bucket with regards to the kind of overall asset category. But I mean, look, tokenizing real estate, getting it, on a public blockchain, which could power, in addition to the tokenization, smart contracts, and there's a bunch of downstream, I think, impacts with regards to self-auditing and different access to improve cities. So I think it's cool that while we were sitting there talking about these things at Strata, this came out. This really does start to take crypto from theory to practice, and not just transactions, but if you do get this data on a blockchain that's accessible more publicly, I would say it's the foundation for digital infrastructure for a lot of things to happen. So hopefully they're right.
So let's go on a tangent, if you will. Go for a ride with me, if you don't mind riding shotgun. So
happy to do it.
I like this. We've talked about artificial intelligence for a while, really booming the economy, both in commercial real estate and, of course, in venture and private equity. PropTech, which, again, I think you and I agree, we hate that term. Let's call it technology for real estate, or the venture dollars behind property technology companies, it's been a little stale. It's been a little slow. That's been the talk of all the conferences. Is this the catalyst, really the driver for what you could call, I don't know, PropTech 2.0, PropTech 3.0? Because again, it was, I guess, automation and workflows, and it was tenant experience, which we kind of dove into, obviously. Is this the next big funding ground for PropTech companies?
I think it opens up a lot of it. Look, it depends on what data starts to get exposed to, say, blockchains. But I do think one of the biggest problems is that there's really very little data capture in commercial real estate. If you just look at the residential market and the data that you get on Zillow, Redfin, whatever. There's significantly more data transparency in that segment of real estate. Commercial real estate is still, I wouldn't even call it a black box. There basically is no box. There is very little information about what's inside buildings, what's happening inside buildings. The biggest database, obviously, is CoStar. So I do think if there's more and more gravitational pull to get this data exposed in ways that developers, technology developers, can work with it, it should open up a significant amount of, doesn't matter if it's application workflow, AI, whatever, but just like in ad tech, you had to get all of the online inventory and then the demand side viewership that needed to be, people don't like the word, but mined. A lot of this just needs to be mined. And then a lot of the use cases that I think a lot of folks have thought about for many years can start to become reality.
Yeah, this to me is commercial real estate has an opportunity to not be the Luddites that they've been in the past, and the technology slow adoption. We can actually help move that forward. I'm excited for the next couple of years. Tokenization or not, this to me seems like a good area to focus.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing for sure.
Speaking of not so good things, so Mr. Zuckerberg, we know there's been a lot of news about what he's been doing. He's been offering like pro sport style contracts and signing bonuses to AI engineers. Well, what goes up must come down. Meta's axing 600 AI research jobs. Now, what's interesting about this, the headlines were huge. It was just Meta axes 600 AI jobs, right? And so that got all the clicks, and everybody's like, oh, is this the pullback? Is this the bubble bursting? But then, you actually go read articles, which I don't do a ton of. But if you do, you get an understanding of where these jobs were. And it was in the research, really the R&D side, and not the AGI side. They're still going hard on AGI. So there's some nuance to this.
Yeah. Well, I think this fits Meta's playbook, where when you think about research and where Google, Alphabet, whatever, they essentially made the research breakthroughs that led to ChatGPT and OpenAI and all of these things with regards to kind of the foundational math and technology that led to LLMs. And where Meta is strong is really on product development. And they've never necessarily been a first mover, in the sense that they weren't the first social network, they weren't the first to mobile, they weren't the first on stories or what they called reels. They tend to be fast followers, and then they leverage their distribution advantage. They have more users than just about anybody. And I think what we're seeing is that, just from a research perspective, I think there are other large tech players that are significantly further with regards to the frontier on whether it's model development or anything like that. So I think where there are frontier research opportunities is still in AGI, and it makes sense for them not to try to play catch up in the areas. Their llama models last year notoriously flopped. I don't even know if they brought all of them to market or not. I have no idea. So this is Zuck, what I think is smart resource allocation, being like, all right, we've seen what works at some other places. Now just copy and iterate for our products in a way that works. And then between what they're doing with, obviously, the AR stuff with the Ray-Ban glasses and all that, they seem to be further out in the frontier than pretty much anybody. I would probably pick them to beat Apple in that space, simply because it's still founder led, and they've got pretty good product apparently with the Ray-Ban glasses and things. And then where there still is opportunity to do research and be on the frontier, I think, is this whole AGI concept, which no one has really cracked yet.
A couple of episodes ago, we talked about the ChatGPT research report about how most people use AI or just ChatGPT in this instance. Have you noticed any shifts in how you utilize AI, either Llama, Grok, ChatGPT, whatever it may be, over the last couple of weeks or months? Or have you just been kind of relatively steady getting personal advice and relationship advice from ChatGPT?
As we covered in the episode, I was slightly shocked to know that most people don't use it for work, which is my primary use case. I mean, look, I'm constantly just asking it questions and trying to have it do jobs for me. So that can
Yeah.
be help with whatever, figuring something else out at my house. I'd say 80 to 90% of my use is work use cases. I've got all these GPTs set up where I basically don't need people to do research or write certain work things for me anymore. It's trained up and smart enough to do that in a way that's just faster and effective. So my use case, I would say, is the same, but I think it's getting smarter. Um, we'll see how we continue to do as a business. That'll be my proxy.
Or as we continue to do as a show, the show will live long past the business. Hopefully, we'll see. But we're at episode 14 now, so we'll take a look at episode 24. Maybe we'll go 10 weeks out, and we'll consistently check in about how we're utilizing the tools.
Yeah, I don't know about the show in the sense that I throw show notes into GPT and it wanted me to say the one liner Meta just killed research to chase God mode, AGI or bust. I'm not going to say that. That's not me.
Wait a sec. Hold on. Say that again. Well, like we got to clip that up clean. That's an Instagram
Meta
short
just
reel right there.
sorry. Meta just killed research to chase God mode, AGI or bust.
Boom. Sounds like the start of a movie.
That doesn't even sound like me.
So AI is supposed to be taking jobs. So we talk about a lot, right? You just said it was automating much of your stuff. Not these jobs. Okay, commercial real estate is creating a new job category here. China's skyscrapers are just so tall, and people are back in the office and ordering food at such a high clip that they've actually created last mile runners to make sure that the food gets up the skyscrapers, all of the floors, and then people can navigate them in a timely manner. So what the issue is, I mean, you've done this, right? Most of the people is this. They've been in Manhattan Towers. You have to go meet your courier, or you have to, and then after you meet your courier, or maybe your courier goes to the top, they have to go up 10 floors. Then they got to switch elevator banks. Then they got to go up to the 50th floor. Then they got to switch banks again over here. And then they got to go to floor, whatever it may be. So to me, that's a massive issue. But hey, we've solved it. New job category. People who know the building, maybe the back fire staircases, they're getting the food there.
Yeah. Well, look, a lot of our clients and customers have been trying to figure this out, and I don't think it's a problem of skill rather than will. I mean, the security issues are obvious. You can't have different DoorDash, Uber Eats, whatever people. The logistics of giving those people all visitor passes and all that is a nightmare. So it makes sense to station people at buildings, get familiar with the building policies, get familiar with the building routes. And, when as cities become more vertical, it's not even the last mile, it's the last couple hundred yards, that can be measured in floors. And again, I think Picnic is doing this. We talked about this at Strata. Somebody just needs to staff it, and it's one workflow at a building that, it's essentially urban user experience. Now, what I will say is that I think China has an advantage from a labor perspective. Obviously, with like minimum wage and stuff like that, it's going to put more pressure in certain Western countries to actually do this. But I did hear that at JP Morgan's new tower, like you sitting at your desk, I believe you can just order a coffee directly to your desk. So they must have figured it out.
Okay, moving on. I love skyscrapers. I love efficiency. Listen, when I order food, I want to make sure it's warm, especially like a buff chick wrap, right? It's got to hit me on the 100th floor. Okay, we've talked a little bit about this. The Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, and to obviously tackle our debt as a country. Well, one of the areas they looked at was the leases from the government. There's some new data out here on just the scope and scale of how DC could really change. And again, there's obviously been a lot of talk. We've talked to some folks at CBRE about sort of the leasing slowdowns that are there. But there's over 440 non-core properties totaling 80 million rentable square feet that the GSA currently owns. Those are up for retrofit. They're up for recaps. This is a right sizing effort. If this all goes through, you're talking 80 million square feet. DC will change. I mean, that will change forever how it's done. Now, there's some good to come about it, right? There's we can get some more affordable housing, some housing in general. But this is a massive change over there. That's going to take many, many years to come into fruition here.
Did the report say how much is in DC versus other areas? I didn't see that.
It didn't say DC versus Virginia and anything like that. We'll have to come back to that. Yep.
Oh, but it's all down in the capital area?
It is.
Wow.
The greater Washington area.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be very interested to understand a breakdown of the portfolio and how old the buildings are, but it would be a very interesting thing to combine what we've talked about in other episodes to create all sorts of incentives for build, baby, build to get the local developers to turn this into new, nice, remixed properties. It could really reinvent the area. 80 million square feet is a massive number, particularly in one metro area. But this could, if people do work to it, it could really reprice a lot of space down in the area.
Yeah, we'll have to get a good buddy of ours, Greg Shipers, on from CBRE, focuses in that area. We should get his take on this. That's a good one to bring in.
Yeah, for sure. We should ask him and some other folks down in. You got JBG Smith, Carr, you got a bunch of Monday Properties, has a bunch of stuff there. We can reach out to some folks, see what they think.
Yeah, either way, massive shift. Okay, so what was once cool is back to being cool again. Okay, so when we first looked at our offices as a company, I don't know, 10 years ago, the cool, hip, edgy places to work were all Class B, right? Nobody could afford Class A. It was the top of the market. Well, let's go back to where the world is today. Class A is hotter than hot. It's white hot. There's leases going for in Manhattan above $300 a foot, in Boston over $100 a foot. Hey, Class B though is coming back. Might be cool again. But the key is it's got to be B plus. It has to have some amenities. It can't just be brick and beam, sort of downtown Leather District, Boston. It has to have some amenities. The world is healing.
Yeah. I mean, look, this part of the cycle, I think it might be more extreme than past cycles, but it's not new. Like since the 80s, there's basically been an amenity war, and what was once Class A becomes Class B. Like this is any product or service development. Like you take a decade and people expect more. So it's not new. Brick and beam, it all comes down to aesthetic, but like brick and beam can be cool.
It's cool,
but it's got to be functional, and stuff can't constantly break and all that. So it's like some of it's just the basics. You need much more modernization of the systems and things, outdated windows, stuff like that. And no matter where you are, whether you're up market or down market, there's got to be some semblance of services that you provide that you didn't provide before. So like this trend is only going to keep going up and to the right. And that's where, technology can help support experience in a way that's feasible from a cost perspective. Like that's pretty much what it comes down to. Like a nice house a couple decades ago is no longer a nice house, even if it's really big. It might be in a good location, but people expect better kitchens. They expect better stuff in how they decorate the house, like all that stuff. The other thing that was inevitable is that not all companies and segments of the economy can afford top of line rent,
Exactly.
But everybody is gravitating back towards being in office. I do think there will be more flexible use cases, But the reason the flex providers do pretty well in market is they meet companies where they are on two critical things. Number one, business happens faster and they need new types of lease terms, more flexibility. And number two, like they need bundled service, like straight up.
And there's a really interesting photo that's getting distributed this week. So JP Morgan Big Tower, right? I don't know, 3 billion or 4 billion, whatever they've done in Manhattan. There's a photo of what looked like, I don't know, hundreds of desks all crammed next to each other. And listen, that's one way to go about it, right? And that building's insane. We've covered it, we've talked about it. We actually, a couple of folks from our basement team did a tour earlier this week. That might not be for everybody. That's the other thing. Money aside, that might not be for everybody. Crammed side by side on their phones, dialing for dollars. There's an element of creativity for some of these startup folks, right? That's what it was back in the day.
For sure, for sure. And we're seeing the same cascade, which is when you think about the two major economic hubs of the United States are obviously New York City is still our major economic hub, and just a major economy signals there's more leading companies and firms in that area than anywhere else. And the Bay Area, from a AI and innovation perspective. And what are the two cities we constantly talk about that are seeing leasing booms? Like the best companies will start bringing people back to the office. And as goes the best companies, so goes the market. Like everybody else will follow, right? So when the best companies leaned into remote and flexibility, everybody else did. We're all lemmings. I expect it to be in the major hubs and it will cascade over the next 5 years into every other city.
Speaking of return to office, people coming back to the office, right? There's some good to that. People get to be social, people get to hang out, right? The loneliness is gone. We're not my kids in the background. But a downside to going back to the office, if you work at Google, is apparently your coworkers are filthy. They don't shower. And there's a bedbugs invasion in Google's Manhattan campus, so much so that they shut the campus down. So this is an RTO hashtag fail here. Let's bring people back. They forgot to mention that these guys have been working from home for a while, maybe haven't showered in a while. Get in the shower, guys, before you go to the office.
Was it really like, are you, did they talk
The shower
about
thing, I don't know. That's more context on my side. The fact is, and this is a fact, that Google has confirmed a bedbug infestation at its Google's Manhattan campus. That's true. I kind of hypothesized that some Google crunching folks might not have.
I feel like a lot of those people no longer work there, but I do like, there's just the pun potential for this, like Google getting bugged, software bugs versus real bugs. Like there's so many angles we could take this. It's also just disgusting. So like, what are they doing? Like, I mean, they got more money than God and they got bugs in the office. That's gross.
Yeah, it's a benefit of return to office, I guess. It's a feature, not a bug. Or it is a
Testing,
bug.
oh, nice, good pun. Testing grit of the employees.
Anyway, so yes, okay, so get people back to the office, let's shower. Good story. You're going to chuck over that one. Okay, this one hits close to home. Love this one. We were actually talking about this the other day. If you're on the 14th floor of 38 Chauncey Street, Boston, which is where we are, in a B minus C plus building, we're working on that, guys. Don't worry about it. Thanks, JLR and Hines. However, One Lincoln, our neighbors here, is amidst a $100 million makeover to revive what I think is going to be an insane office building. Right now, we were looking down and you can see what was pickleball, I think a basketball court on the roof. They have, they're doing a whiskey bar, they're doing a private club that's there. But what's more interesting about this is this project was stalled this past year. It went through a number of different sort of defaults and issues with its financing, but now they have the transformation is $100 million by DIFCO. And I think the report says it was over 50% leased and it's about to open up. This is huge for Boston.
Was it over 50% leased? Why? For some reason, I think it's currently 2/3.
Oh, it said about 50%.
Yeah. I think it was like 2/3 vacant, but I think it's filling up. Obviously, Harbor Vest. I'm still not totally used to Harbor Vest being up on the building compared to
The State
State
Street
Street,
Tower.
and now State Street's moved. It was the State Street building. But I think one, it's got a basketball court on one of its roof decks, which is awesome. So they had us, and then it changed hands and all this stuff, and we didn't end up moving over there. But they had all these concepts of private clubs. I think they were going to call it maybe like the Abraham, little play on
Mm-hmm.
One Lincoln, kind of like
Ooh,
that.
I didn't get
Uh,
that until now.
yeah, the location is right near South Station, so it should be attractive. The auction when Divco went and bought it, it was literally a street auction, which
That
was
was cool.
super cool, also very crazy. And Divco's great owners. So, the only issue we have in the area is the area is a little seedy. So,
Okay, but listen, all right, so this is where I was going to go to. So this is nice, all right, and we could draw parallels to Vornado and what they've done at Penn Station, right? Because
yeah,
South Station is a massive hub for
right,
the city of Boston. Okay,
right.
so we have the Hines project, okay, cleaning up a lot of South Station. That tower's insane.
Hmm.
We have 1 and 2 International Place, which are going through a massive renovation just outside.
Little
Okay, it's
further
not
up, little
just
further up.
outside. And then you have One Lincoln here going through this massive renovation. This is what the area needs to clean it up a little bit, help out
Hmm.
with some of the seedy individuals. This is huge because, again, everybody, like you said, for State Street was here in One Lincoln, downtown Boston, and then where'd they go? Where everybody went.
One Congy.
Every,
Yeah,
or one Congress, but either
right.
way, a nicer,
They went
nicer
up.
building.
They went
Yeah.
up. Everybody
And
moved
so,
up a little in the downtown area to, I guess that's Financial District. It's like kind of in between Financial and North Station.
which,
But
by the way, Boston Properties did a phenomenal job with that redevelopment. That cleaned up that hub.
they did a great job. They kept kind of the North Station sports feel, but it's been upgraded from an experiential perspective. I think the key for all of the owners in the downtown crossing area is to literally just replicate the Vornado playbook at Penn
Mm.
Station. Like they did a phenomenal job in that area. And there's like this imaginary line that when you cross it from like one street to the other around that area, basically all the riffraff is nowhere to be found. And downtown crossing in Boston could use a little bit of that for sure.
This is just a start. This is just a start. I think they're getting it.
Yeah.
Okay, we got 2 more stories before we go to one more bit of news. One more bit of news is absolutely 2 more bits of news, and it's fantastic this week. But let's get into some earnings. Okay, so KKR's earnings call signaled that U.S. capital is pivoting outside of the U.S., pivoting to Asia. Okay, so hold that headline for a second.
Mm.
There is a massive, and we're going to get to pull up this chart about a massive Gulf real estate boom, right? Where all of the capital is going into Riyadh and the Emirates, and Dubai, and Saudi, and we talked about that. Now, the parallel here, and I want you to kind of kick this off, is recap just a second about what Travis Kalanick and one of the main threads of the day last week was. And now you're telling me, okay, all of a sudden we hosted a conversation last week. Now KKR comes out with an earnings saying capital is being pushed abroad
Mm.
because why?
Too much red tape. I mean, we ran through it last week in terms of the burden to build in the West is just way too high. And broader Asia, whether it's Eastern or Western, is being super smart about let builders build, which is a Kalanick phrase. They're investing a ton in modern infrastructure and they just move stuff out of the way so that you can take on these ambitious projects. So, if we don't continue to try to, I would say, lean down our bureaucratic state, the next, obviously, real estate super cycle, which I think we're already seeing, won't be in Manhattan. It'll be in Mumbai. It'll be in the Middle East. It'll be in, the different Asian areas. And like when you look at Eastern Asia, now it's much more encroaching on civil liberties, which we obviously have a problem with, but they're already essentially testing city as a platform models from a technology perspective. So I think this is a absolutely critical national issue that we need people on both sides of the aisle to solve.
I think one of the interesting threads that they brought up here in the article was a lot of these Western firms, I don't know, Brookfield, Starwood, name a few, whatever it may be. And I'm not saying this is their motive, but what they're doing is they're using real estate to gain access to capital, and they're gaining access to the sovereign wealth fund. So as you see Brookfield, and again, I don't know if this is their incentive or not, they're having obviously a record year. They're deploying massive amounts of capital. They're raising massive amounts of capital. They're collecting fees on that massive amounts of capital. But now maybe they're using this expansion. We know there's too much red tape here, obviously, but they're using this as a way to get additional capital for the sovereign wealth funds. I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, I'd love to see a map of the capital flows because obviously, like much of London and Canary Wharf, Brookfield did with, I believe it's the Qatari royal family's money, and how much money from that area comes into Western asset management, and then where does it get deployed globally, and how much are we putting back into these other areas? It would be I'd say a pretty fascinating view of how the capital flows in this asset class in the world.
Two more bits of news this week, both equally exciting, both equally shocking and surprising. And I know this one, the first one's a good one for you. You're a big theme park guy. That I know, right? Akin to how much I like malls, you're a theme park guy. So Six Flags has been having some issues. They've seen attendance drop 25% since 2019. The stock is down 70%. Oh, when this sort of stuff happens, who do you turn to? You turn to the guy who really single-handedly, I think, saved America by proposing to Taylor Swift, giving us that. So Travis Kelce, here's the headline, is to the rescue here. He's apparently joining a bid to save Six Flags. I don't get it.
First and foremost, I haven't been to Six Flags in years, but I bet it's pretty sweet. So
it will be sweet.
Yeah, well, fair. I did recently do a bit of a deep dive on amusement park ownership, and it's a
really,
yeah, because when I was
is it shadow orgs?
No, not so much shadow, but like there's a very interesting distribution of where private equity is, rolling these things up, and frankly not seeing a lot of success. I think a lot of the appeal to like the regional and local amusement businesses is the staffing and the appeal of the people who run it. And it's the same thing we've been talking about in, the fast serve lunch places, which is like everything can't be $1 billion, but the quality of your product goes down. So like less rides per hour or minute or whatever they track, and then like all the concessions, prices are through the roof. Like I think the typical playbook of being only bottom line oriented rather than customer oriented is squeezing a lot of these franchises. I was up at what's the one in New Hampshire
Canopy Lake.
I was up at Canopy Lake, still locally owned. People are proud to work at Canopy Lake. Now, interesting tie, if Kelce gets involved, one of the most popular attractions at Canopy Lake is the Taylor Swift impersonator. So like every hour, there's like a quick short Taylor Swift impersonator show. And apparently that's like a pipeline of people to get into entertainment, whatever. So it's a fascinating space. I love this move from the group, because if you can get the man behind the woman in this case, Kelce is clearly behind Taylor Swift. That's some influence and some star power you're bringing to old Six Flags. Like that move.
I think so. Outside of the funniness and the jokes here,
I'm dead serious.
The dead serious nature of your take, which was serious. Mine was more joking, manner. Really, where this is going is in-person experience are critical.
Back,
and so
baby.
Again, what?
They're back, baby.
They're back.
Yeah.
So we talked about this. There's the developments with the surf parks in Virginia, and that's all being tied to mixed use. And I joke about malls all the time, But the malls in Dubai and the Emirates are obviously insane. They're redoing the ski slope that's there because it's so popular. So you might actually be onto something here. Six Flags can't comment if it's well run or not. I agree with you. The Kennedy Lake Park is an absolute gem up there in New Hampshire. But I think like people yearn for these types of experiences.
Totally.
And I think we had massive issues the past couple of years with COVID, and they're coming back.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I was always short on those kooks on the internet that would post the pictures. Like, remember when they were doing the concerts of like everybody sitting with these stupid, like, plastic partitions in a field, which didn't even make any sense because they weren't like airtight boxes. Like the whole thing was insane. And everybody was like, we're never going to watch concerts again in person. Like, give me a break. And the whole like, you can't do amusement parks with a headset. Like, you can't, that's actually not true. I've been down at Nova. They have this, like, which is a trampoline park in our area. They have this ride where it just like shakes you and you have an AR headset and you feel like you're on a roller coaster. So they can kind of do it, but it's still not as good as the real thing. And those are core memories for kids growing up. So it's, I love this. I'm a big supporter of this.
Yeah, speaking of core memories of kids growing up, and I will say that like the idea of America is healing is true. So I went to a costume party the other day, and
Good sign.
this is the first time in a long time that we were playing Beirut, right, or beer pong, whatever it is, and we weren't using water cups. We were actually using the beer cups, and the balls were going around the mud and the grass, and they were sharing cups.
Yeah.
And many games have gone by, and America's healing, right? We can get back to that. We're not wearing hazmat suits and hugging each other through glass panes. We're sharing disgusting grassy beer cups.
If there's any measure of national health, it would be arrested development. So there you go.
Love it. Okay, last bit of news this week. Everybody knows how much I love a casino. Everybody knows how much I love gambling. Everybody knows that I absolutely am terrible at it. Haven't hit a game, haven't hit a parlay in a very long time. You want to know why? It's because I'm not rigging it. Because I'm not.
It's called
cheating.
Gambling. Because it's gambling.
Because it's not according to this, the NBA. Which how many times has folks in the NBA gotten in trouble? Didn't a rookie just get suspended for an entire year because he was gambling on his own stat line and then not catching rebounds or whatever it is? Anyway, so here's the headline story. Chauncey Billups and the Charlotte Hornets Arturo Rozier are under a federal investigation. I think there's over 36 individuals. The Mafia is involved with this massive sports gambling ring that's just bringing down the NBA right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are a lot of names. I watched the FBI press conference where Kash Patel and some other guy got up and, were like, we arrested, I think it was like 30 people. It was like 20 or 30 people. And I decided to sport the hat today because not to brag to our national listeners, but I'm going to do a little bragging. Both Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier played for the Celtics, and you think about the mob ties. I don't know.
So we're a bunch of crap.
Hey, look,
what are we?
All I'm saying is like, I'm having a hard time pulling off this joke, but all press is good press. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I wasn't psyched to see because Chauncey's an active head coach, I believe, for the Portland Trailblazers. So tough look for Chauncey. He was a big game player, always stepped up in the biggest games, won a championship with Detroit. Terry, I think, might have he was our backup point guard and won a chip with us. So bummer to see those two guys doing something so stupid. But yeah, the NBA is basically where you go to cheat because it's always the NBA. You see some stuff with baseball, I guess, occasionally, but like, seems to be mostly the NBA, which is a bummer as a washed up college basketball player to always have it be the NBA. But it's
what was even crazier about it wasn't even just NBA game. There was apparently some wild cheating around rigged poker games using contact lenses and glasses that can read pre-marked cards.
Poker games. Yeah. And wasn't there some tie into like scamming the healthcare system of
this
the
is
NBA or
just
something.
incredible. The encrypted chats, this ring. They haven't even uncovered it. I think the easiest story that people are getting on is, of course, gambling on NBA games, right? These are NBA players and coaches gambling on games. But this whole idea of this like poker ring and all that person. It's cool. It's cool. Love it.
Well, it's
Mafia's back.
there to take a little bit of a silver lining from all of this. Number one, I was worried that on Netflix and Prime and all the streaming services, they were going to run out of Mafia content. Clearly, that's not going to be an issue. There's going to be plenty of Mafia content, which seems to be a big portion of what people stream, number one. And then number two, just thinking back to all the puns in the show, I recommend that all of our listeners go and listen to the FBI press conference on this. So not Kash Patel, but the second guy that spoke was just killing it with puns. He was like, he at one point he had some line where he was like, we arrested these guys, blah, 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 and they're going to bet that you can't get away with this with this FBI administration. He was working in bet, he was working in all these things, and I was like, dude, he was like the pun master. It was amazing how many puns he was working into what he was dishing out. Two small silver linings to what's clearly a bummer of a situation.
I love it. I think the Mafia needs to get more organized crime. I've always been fascinated by it. I love it. I can't wait till more comes out of the story. What a show this week, episode 14. Again, coming up, a big recap. Strata, we talked about a lot of stuff. We went into AI. We went into capital moving, obviously abroad. We talked about bedbugs, return to office. It's an issue. Class B's coming back. And then, of course, our favorite section of the show. One more bit of news. Travis Kelce at Six Flags. And, of course, a gambling scandal in the NBA. What a show, man.
Great show. And I don't want to call it too early, but the 2020s, we're passing halfway here, started with a pretty bad real estate recession, but I think we're heading into essentially a digital reconstruction. So I'm bullish.
You heard it here first. Thanks for coming out.